So Home Depot has just started to add some of their new Halloween animatronics for 2025 to their website, and overall, I've got to say, this year looks like they have an awesome lineup once again. They've got so many cool characters right here with a ton of cool animation and features, and overall, it's gonna be awesome to check these all out in today's video. So anyways, with that said, let's of course get into checking out all these awesome new Halloween animatronics from the Home Depot. What's up, Honors? I'm Alex, as always, and welcome back to the channel. So yes, of course, it's finally that time of year again that Home Depot decides to start adding some links for some new animatronics to their website. Unfortunately, for right now, it's only the US that's been doing this. Unfortunately, for Canada here, they haven't really added anything yet, but I assume over the next week they will be adding stuff because, of course, they also posted a teaser about a week ago like Home Depot US did, so eventually Canada, we should begin stuff. But anyways, here for the US, which is what we're talking about today, they, of course, added a bunch of cool animatronics right here. Unfortunately, they haven't added all of them yet, but they've added a decent number right here, and from what it is right here, they've got, just so many awesome characters this year, which a lot of these we already saw leaked a couple months ago back in March, but overall it's cool to finally see some actual stock photos and videos of these guys to see like what they actually do and everything a bit better. But overall, tons of awesome stuff right here, and I'm excited to talk about in today's video because, a bunch of cool new characters right here that honestly, some of them maybe I'll buy if they come to Canada. I'll have to see price and everything, but so anyways, with that said, I think that's enough talking for the intro. Let's of course get right into talk about all these awesome animatronics. Starting off, of course, with a brand new Reaper this year, which looks really awesome. This guy right here is, of course, the Fiery Reaper. Alright, so get into our first animatronic right here. This guy is, of course, the Fiery Reaper animatronic, which this guy is a really interesting one. Of course, I believe, if I remember right, he is supposed to be made by Pack, which, if you don't know, they made a bunch of cheaper Reaper animatronics in the past. Of course, I own one end. They're never the greatest quality, and they're always such basic designs. But overall, for this one right here, they went with a really cool new design, which overall looks awesome, and this might have to be one of the best Reaper type characters we've ever seen. There's still definitely better ones out there. This guy's still pretty basic, but I love all the stuff they have done with this guy. Of course, looking at him right here, you can see he's got that classic sort of Reaper look. He's got the black robe on everything, but I love lots of details they've done on it. Of course, inside his robe, that is these nice red accents, which just adds a bit more color to the character. His head up there looks really awesome. I like the lights in it. It looks like it sort of lights up his eyes, and the top of his head right there and everything also lights up a bit red, so that's cool. Then, of course, in his one hand, he has a scroll right there, which is something we've never really seen before. It does make sense for the character, so it is a nice feature because always with Reapers, it's always just that one staff in the one hand, so it is nice to see them do something else with it. Then, of course, the staff in the other hand, it's a Reaper. You have to have that. It's really what changes this character from just a skeleton cloak to a Reaper, I guess. Then, overall, the clothing right here is just that classic black look, but overall, it does look like some pretty decent quality. So, overall, an awesome character right here, and he has a pretty big one, 7.5 feet tall. That is awesome. Then features on this guy, he has a couple of animations. Of course, his mouth right there, it moves and everything. And then his arm right there too with the scroll. He moves that up and down, which is a nice animation. Then of course he has lights in there in the scroll, it looks like. Then of course the eyes right there light up red and everything. So overall, a few awesome features on this guy. Unfortunately for this guy, it doesn't say anything about outdoor use, which I was really hoping they'd continue on with lots of the outdoor use stuff this year. Now it only says outdoor covered, so I assume you can't get it wet or anything, which really sucks. But overall, for what he is, he's still a cool Reaper, and coming in at $180, which overall is not the worst price, I would say. It's alright for what this guy is. He's still just a typical Reaper. It's nothing too crazy aside from the couple of unique things they've been doing, but overall, $180 is not the worst price, and honestly, this guy's a cool one, and if he comes to Canada and I'm able to get him on sale, maybe it'd be one I'd get. Alright, and moving on right here, we've got a brand new animatronic of an animatronic that we've seen sold for many years before. This is, of course, the brand new Sally animatronic, which, of course, these new Nightmare Before Christmas ones they're releasing this year. They're calling them deluxe versions because, of course, they changed a few things about them to improve the design. But yeah, of course, I got the new Sally right here. One of the main things you'll notice look at look is it does look very similar to the original model. But one big thing is, of course, in her hands right there. I don't think those were present in the original model. I will correct me on screen if I'm wrong, but of course she has a spoon right there, and then the pot and everything. So overall, I think those two details right there are new. Then, of course, other than that, her clothing and everything, it's the same as the other models, I believe. But then one other big thing that they have changed with this is, of course, with the head. Of course, the original model of her, she never had any mouth animation. Of course, it was the Jack Skeleton that did, and just had that one plastic mouth that opened and shut, which wasn't the greatest. But overall, they've given them new latex heads now, it looks like, and it's awesome with her because now she finally has mouth movement, which was one thing that really sucked that wasn't present in the original model. So that's awesome about that in now. And then they also kept the torso movement, which I believe was available in the first model. So that's awesome. Now they did remove one feature, which of course was the eye blinking, which you'll remember the original Sally did have, which honestly, I think this works better without the eye blinking. If you don't remember, it's so annoying just hearing that clicking every single time it did because, of course, the head was just full plastic and it just did that. So overall, I think it is better without that eye movement. I think it is nice that they added the mouth movement there. So overall, the new Deluxe Sally looks really awesome, and coming in at $260, which is a little bit pricey. Honestly, I would have liked to see this a bit cheaper, but for what it is, it looks decent and definitely better than the old Sally we had. Alright, and moving on to the next one right here, let's keep up with these licensed animatronics. Of course, talk about the new Malifecent right here, which is a pretty cool new one. Of course, this one, I don't think we really knew too much about it before. We never saw any photos or videos or anything, and we've only really got like a couple leaks for the name and everything, which I'm not sure if those were ever really known, if they were 100% true or if it was just stuff people are spreading around. But overall, I guess it was true because, of course, we have Malifecent right here, which is an interesting choice. Of course, I guess she is more of a villain character from Disney, so she does kind of fit a little bit of that Halloween vibe, but either ways, I'm still really excited to see this, even though it's not necessarily a Halloween animatronic, because of course I'm a big fan of Disney and everything, and it's really cool some of these Star Wars animatronics I'm making over the years because it looks like stuff straight out of these Disney amusement parks. So really awesome to see Malifecent right here. She is an awesome character, and it is awesome to see here in animatronic form right here for retail. Of course, she is one too that's coming to Canada. The two that I know that so far confirmed because there were links on the website is Malifecent and App Skeleton for Canada. But overall, look at Malifecent right here. The design is really awesome, very accurate from the movies and everything. She's definitely based off of that more cartoony look, not the live actions or anything. But overall, it looks awesome. I love the head design right there. It looks awesome. Her robe and everything, you know, it's really big, really well done. It looks awesome. She's got the staff right there in the one hand, which is cool. Has the crow on there and everything. So overall, yeah, awesome design on this and everything. And then, yeah, for animation on this, it has some awesome features. Of course, it is servo, which is awesome to see. I love when they include these servos in animatronics. I think it's definitely way better than just the typical animatronic motors. Everything just allows for more lifelike movement, which is awesome. But yeah, of course, she has the head movement right there. That's where the servos mostly are used, so she can have that fluent head movement to look around. Got the mouth movement right there, of course, the eye movement, and then of course on her staff right there, she moves the staff around, and then the crow on it too, he also moves his beak. So overall, tons of motion going on for this. You know, they've really put a lot of work into it. Then you have 5 classic Maleficent phrases, which I believe are from the original movie or movies. And yeah, overall, this one right here looks really cool. It's probably not one that I would get, you know, this would be really cool to have, but I just wouldn't really have any use for it other than just having it set up here in the house somewhere. But overall, it looks really awesome. Something straight up Disney again. Like, this could honestly be on a Disney ride and I wouldn't know the difference. Yeah, overall, $280 for this, which is another little bit of pricier one. Of course, it does have the servos, which you do have to pay a bit more for those, but overall, Maleficent right here, really cool. And also goes here coming to Canada, and honestly, one that, yeah, I do like seeing right here. It's a cool one. And carrying on to the next guy right here. This guy is one of their new characters for this year, which looks really awesome because we've never really seen many animatronics like this. This is, of course, the new Troll animatronic, which this guy, of course, looks like he's called Tumble The Troll. Pretty good name on that. And overall, looking at this guy right here, I love the design on this. I think this might be one of my favorites design-wise for this year. I just really love what they've done right here. Kind of looks like Shrek, but a bit different, to be honest. Of course, up there, looking at just some of the detail first, he's got his head right there with the point at the top and everything. He's got his big ogre type of ears coming out right there. Then yeah, he's got the big mouth right there, which looks awesome. Like the big teeth coming out there and everything, you know. A lot of animatronics, they don't put too much detail into the mouth right there. It's usually just like cheap looking teeth or anything. But this guy, they really did a lot of detail there, which looks awesome. And yeah, he's got the eyes up there and everything. And yeah, just so much detail on it right here. I love the sculpt work they did. Then, of course, in his arms right there, you can see he's holding this massive bat right here, which I love the sculpt on that too. It's got like this stuff sticking out. I assume that's supposed to be rocks, I think. Then, yeah, overall, you can see just this big belly sticking out, which is kind of funny. And then yeah, he's got these, yeah, just simple clothing on, matches his vibe and everything. There was his big feet at the bottom. Overall, yeah, just tons of detail on this guy. I'm a big fan of it. Then, yeah, of course, for animation on this guy, he's got a couple of different things. Of course, his head moves. He's also got the mouth movement right there, which is really cool. I love the look of that with it moving everything with the teeth and everything. Of course, he also has body movement, and then his arms too. He's able to lift that bat up and down, which I think that's a nice animation choice for this guy. And of course, this guy's a giant right here, 8 feet tall. This guy's like insane height. I love that. And then yeah, of course, for this guy right here, he's only $250, which is a little bit more expensive, but just for how big this guy is and the amount of animation and everything, no, I think that $250 is worth it for this guy. You know, he's just such an awesome one. And I think this guy too, he is one that's going to be coming to Canada, because I remember on their Instagram post a while ago, they did hint at this guy coming. So overall, this guy right here, an awesome one. I hope he comes to stores here in Canada too, because I would love to see this thing in person. Overall, not sure it would be something I'd get, because it wouldn't personally fit in my themes and my haunts, but overall, this guy's an insane character and might be one of my favorites from Home Depot this year. Alright, and carrying on, this next guy right here is one of their budget props this year, I guess. He's coming at only $130, which is a really good deal. But this guy right here is, of course, the Guardian of Gourds. Love that name, too. They're doing pretty good with their names here, too, for these animatronics, which is nice. But overall, this guy right here is this new pumpkin man creature thing right here, which overall, I love the look on this guy, too, right here. Especially that pumpkin face. It looks awesome. I love the look of the teeth on there. And then, yeah, the pumpkin look and everything looks good. He's got the straw hair coming down. Then this nice little, like, tiny top hat. Looks more cartoony, but I love the vibe on that. Then, of course, he's got just this black robe on and everything. He's got these little pieces of creepy cloth looking stuff thrown over the shoulders. And then, of course, his hands right there resting on this one staff he has right there. Overall, yeah, really awesome look on this guy. I love how it is. And of course, with them being more of a budget prop, he doesn't have too much animation to offer. Of course, it is just the head can turn side to side and then the mouth movement and everything. But for what he is, I think he does just work with just that simple mouth movement there. He's just supposed to be this guy that's sort of like standing over you. So I don't think he needs anything too crazy, so it works. And yeah, for only $130, this guy is a pretty good budget prop for this year. Now, I wonder if they are adjusting their prices from 100 to 130 for their budget props, or if this guy's just a bit more expensive just because he's a little bit of different design from some of the other budget props. But overall, for what he is, he looks really awesome, and I think this guy's another one that's coming to Canada, so he's a cool one. So overall, another awesome new pumpkin character this year. I don't think we get pumpkin characters too often, so this guy's a really awesome one to see, and yeah, especially for that price, he is an awesome animatronic. Alright, and carrying on, let's of course talk about a couple of the new 12-footer guys for this year, which of course are going to be 15 foot now, which is really crazy. Big jump, 12-foot animatronics now all the way up to 15, which we have seen some 15-foot ones before, but they were never really the star ones of the year this year. It's like these 15-foot guys are the like big, really big guys, seller these year, which is really cool. But overall, we of course got two of them right here, which have a little bit of similar designs, but let's of course start off with these new Worricrow right here, of course. He's this new scarecrow guy right here, which is interesting. Of course, look at him right here. He has this really cool looking design, of course. Starting off at the base right there, it starts off with just this like 1 foot tree sort of thing rooted into the ground. Look up, it's sort of this like root that grows into these 2 legs eventually, then up into his body right here, which of course he's got that glowing skeleton looking chest right there, which looks awesome. He's got this big overcoat on, which looks really cool, really matches the vibes right there. Then of course he's got those sticky hands coming out the ends right there, then the straw right there too. Then of course he's got that big head right there at the top, which looks awesome. I love the design that. Looks like the hat and everything, the little straw hair coming down, and yeah, face looks like it lights up too, so that's really awesome. And of course, animation on this guy, with it being such a massive one, they never really have too much animation. Of course, this guy is just the head animation he has, but for what he is, you know, I do like that they at least added that head animation, because a lot of these guys are usually static, so that is a nice addition. And then, yeah, of course, $400 on this guy, which is a decent price. Of course, the 12-footer used to be $300 in the US, so $400 for 15 foot, you know, it's not bad. This guy's like a giant one, especially with just how much his arms go and everything. This guy is gonna be just such a massive one for this year, so not too bad a price on this. But yeah, overall, I love the molds on this guy. It looks really awesome. They definitely put a lot of work into it. And then yeah, he's got that head animation right there, and then all the live details. Overall, this guy right here, an awesome 15-footer, and cool to see him here at Home Depot for this year. And of course, carrying on to the other design right here, which this one looks very similar. This is of course the Gallu-Crow, which this guy is sort of similar in the way that, yeah, as you can see, he's got like that similar base right there, where of course he starts off as just like the one tree stump right there, which grows into the 2 separate legs kind of, and then up into the body where he's got that rib cage right there that lights up. The big different thing with this guy is of course the head right there. It's this like big crow plague doctor looking guy instead of the scarecrow type head. And of course got the shirt on right there over him and everything, and those sticky hands coming out the side. Overall, another really awesome design on this guy. I love the molds they went with and everything. It looks great. And there's similar stuff on this guy. Of course, he has the animated head right there, similar line feature with the eyes, and then of course the chest right there. So overall, a pretty similar animatronic. Of course, coming at a similar price to a 400, which, like I mentioned for the other guy, you know, it's decent price for him. So overall, a really cool new animatronic to see. I think they did a really good job in design for this guy. It's cool to see these at 15 feet now. It's an insane height, and I think at least one of these guys is going to be coming to Canada, maybe both, so these will be cool to see in stores. But overall, these things are really awesome, and yeah, Home Depot, it's cool to see you continue on this trend, and yeah, you're definitely giving us the best characters out there for these massive animatronics, I would say. Alright, and carrying on, another awesome one we have this year is, of course, the Zombie Stack Trio. This is, of course, a reskin of the Clown Trio, or Trickster Trio, whatever it was from last year. And overall, this new version right here looks really awesome. I love the design they went with and everything. Overall, it's the same prop in the way that's these 3 separate guys, but you can either stack on top of each other or just lay them each separately. And yeah, I love, just that zombie cartoonish look they did on all of these. It would have been nice to see like a scarier look, but for these, you know, I think they work more as like cartoony characters with like the more bobbly heads and everything, just with how small they are and everything. But overall, they look really great. I love the design of each of these guys and everything. Of course, that guy on the bottom, I like how he has the exposed brain right there. That looks awesome. You know, their clothing and everything looks awesome. The guy on the top right there, of course, has the bat and everything. And then, yeah, overall, some awesome detail on this. They've really done a good job with this type of animatronic again. And of course, a bunch of movement on this. Of course, each of the mouth move, and then of course the arm right there moves. So quite a bit going on. Of course, I believe each of their eyes light up too, so that's awesome. You know, I love that feature. We can either display them separately or stacked on top of each other. That is really cool detail. And of course, these guys come in at 200, which I believe was the same price for Trickster Trio last year. So overall, it's a decent price. Honestly, I feel like it should be cheaper just with, I don't know, these guys, they're not the craziest things ever. They're just like pack animatronics, and they're a bit more smaller characters that I guess stack top of each other. They do add up to a pretty good height, but I don't know, these seem to be pretty decent quality too. Now, one thing too I want to mention is, unfortunately, it seems like these aren't outdoor rated anymore. I can't really see anything on here that says they're outdoor rated, which really sucks because, of course, Trickster Trio was. So these guys, it does suck to see them not outdoor rated, but for what they are, they're still really cool animatronics. I love, just detail on each of them and then the animation and everything. So overall, an awesome one right here. I'm a big fan of zombies, and yeah, there's a ton of cool stuff going on with these guys right here. And carrying on, next one we have right here is the Wyvern. I'm not too sure exactly how to say it, but this guy might be another one of the best animatronics right here, and definitely the best dragon one we've ever seen. I really love just a ton of stuff going on with this guy. Of course, starting off with the look of him again and just all that detail. Looking at him, you can see, it's just this big dragon right here. He's on just his 2 back feet, which is awesome and everything. Of course, he's got his wings spread out there and everything, which looks insane. I love that. His wings look kind of cool. They're like a little bit ripped up, but that's awesome. Just that little bit of extra detail on there. Like the big spike and everything on top, and yeah, it just looks creepy. And yeah, his head right there, I love that head design. A ton of detail going on right there. It is just insane just how much detail they put on this thing. It is crazy. Of course, he's got his chest going down right there, which all lights up. I love the lighting feature on there. But of course, he's got his legs sticking out right there, which looks awesome. I love the feet on there, and his tail coming out the back. Overall, an awesome sculpt in this. Tons of awesome detail going on. And then, yeah, getting into the animation. I love the animation on this guy. Of course, the mouth right there moves. But then the really cool thing is the neck, of course, bends down, which I wonder how they do that animation, because it looks like it's like the whole neck piece sort of like moves in a way. You know, I don't know how they do it. It's hard to explain. It looks really cool. And then the lighting feature too that goes off, like where it's like going through his chest and neck right there. It looks really awesome. I love just so much about this guy. He's an insane animatronic, and I really hope he comes to Canada. Probably not one I'd get because it's a bit more of an expensive one, and I don't know where it'd work in my theme, but this guy's still insane. And of course, pricing on him, he's coming in at $400, which honestly, for how big this guy is at 8 feet and just how much just other detail he's got going on, you know, this guy's awesome. I think he is well worth that $400. So overall, this guy right here, an awesome animatronic. He'll probably be close to the top of my list for Home Depot series, an awesome one. And yeah, overall, this guy, there's just so much to say about him. He's just such a cool one. Alright, and carrying on, let's move on to 2 more right here, which are also kind of like the Sally, where they're characters we've seen before, but now they're deluxe versions. Of course, we got the new Chucky and Tiffany. Let's go start off with Chucky right here, which overall, remember, we saw him last year, and overall, the new version right here is really cool. Really, the main thing they changed up is just the look of it and everything. One big thing, of course, is the face right there, which I love the new look of him and everything. Of course, his eyes right there, you can see they changed it. Of course, the one's like a little bit blacked out and everything. His hair, I think, is a little bit different. His clothing and everything, you know, it's got more rips on it and blood and everything than the last version. Got the knife in his hand there again, which I think the last version had too, so similar there. And then, yeah, just overall, a really awesome look on this guy. I think I might prefer him over the older Chucky. I don't know. I just really love the new look on this guy. It looks way nicer with them all, like, dirtied up and everything. And yeah, of course, movement on this guy. He's got a few different things going on. Of course, he got servos in him, which is really awesome. I love that they're using servos once again. Of course, he's got head movement right there. He's got mouth movement, waist movement, arm movement, and of course, eye movement. The eye can both move and blink, which is really cool. So it can look different ways, and of course, also blink. So tons of animation on this guy. I love that they packed so much into this tiny character right here. That's one really big thing I liked about Chucky last year. Just so much detail into such a tiny animatronic, which overall is insane. And yeah, coming at $230, which I believe the one last year was $200, so a little bit more expensive this year, which I guess somewhat makes sense, of course, with it being like a new deluxe version, kind of. So overall, I don't know, I wish they did have it at 200 like the one last year, I believe, but for what it is, you know, he's really cool. And honestly, if this guy comes to Canada this year, which I think he was one that might be, this guy, I don't know, this might be a year that I have to pick him up. I don't know, he's just such a cool character, and I would really love to own him. But overall, Chucky right here, an awesome character, and one that I'm really cool to see a new, cooler version of this year. And now moving on, you know, we talked about Chucky, but now we of course got to talk about Tiffany, which is one, of course, I don't think we had a Tiffany last year, so this is a new one we're seeing. Oh no, I'll correct myself if I'm wrong just on the video right here, but I believe this is a new character. We haven't seen a Tiffany before, but at least not in Canada that I remember. But overall, for what this new one is right here, it looks really cool, of course. They really got that nice look going on right there. Love her face right there, looks awesome. This nice leather jacket on, everything, this dress kind of. Then of course the knife right there in her one hand. Overall, it looks really cool, this animatronic right here. And of course, again with this one, they also use servos in it, just like Chucky, which is really awesome. Servos are probably the best animation animatronic can have, just to really bring it to life. And of course, a bunch of movement on this. Of course, the head moves, the mouth moves, the waist moves, the arm moves. Then of course, the eyes can both move and blink. So yeah, just tons of animation on this one. Again, too, they've really packaged so much into this tiny character right here. And of course, in this one, same price as Chucky, $230. You know, it's essentially the same prop. It has all the same animation, just a different look on it and everything. So pricing sort of matches up. This one was sold last year along with Chucky. It probably would have been $200, so a little bit more expensive. But yeah, for what it is, I really love this new Tiffany right here. Along with Chucky, these two would be an awesome just to have them both paired together. But overall, Tiffany right here, an awesome animatronic. Probably not one I would get. I think I'd rather get Chucky, but still really cool to see this one right here. And carrying on, we're sort of getting to the end of stuff right here that I have. But of course, moving on, this guy right here is really awesome. This is, of course, the new app skeleton right here, which this guy's really awesome. Of course, he has a bunch of these cool features where it's like Bluetooth controlled through an app, of course, which is really awesome. Of course, looking at him right here, the design is pretty simple. It's just a skeleton looking guy. Of course, you can see he's got the light there, the chest edge. Overall, you know, it's pretty much Grim from Spirit Halloween, just a big skeleton character that's animated. But then, of course, get into the animation, which you, of course, can control and customize, I believe. Of course, he's got head movement, mouth movement, arm movement, and torso. So, just stuff going on. I think that's all that we saw, too, with the Grim animatronic from Spirit Halloween. So, essentially the same character, but with Bluetooth capability. And yeah, of course, for audio on this guy, you just control it from the app. You can put in your own audio and everything, which is really awesome. And yeah, it also speaks in live mode. I wonder if you can speak like directly from your phone to this character if you pair it, I think. Or it says you can also have recordings with voice changing effects. So a lot of cool stuff you can do with this guy. It's really awesome. And I'm really curious to see like how exactly the app works for this and everything. Honestly, I'm not sure if he'd be one I'd get because he's a bit more of an expensive guy for just being a skeleton and everything. But I'm really curious on the app and everything for this guy, how exactly it works. Yeah, of course, price on this guy, $280, probably the most expensive like 6-foot animatronic we've seen from Home Depot this year that isn't licensed. Of course, that Bluetooth feature, just app control, I think just really adds on to the price. But for what he is, he looks really awesome. And, you know, the price is decent for what he is. I assume Canadian is going to be like $350, which is a little bit high. But for what he is, just all the stuff going on, you know, this guy is an awesome one. So overall, an awesome design, awesome features and everything. Probably not one I would get. He's just a simple skeleton. But I really love that they're testing out this new app feature this year. It's going to be really cool to see people experiment with what they could do with this. Alright, and with all that said, that of course is going to finish it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoy. That was of course all the links that I could find so far that have been put up on Home Depot's website for some new animatronics for this year. Now the rest of the new stuff, I don't think we have had links up so far. We might have, and I may have just missed them, but anyways, the rest of the stuff, when it does get added, or if I find it eventually, I will of course have a part 2 to this video, probably coming out sometime soon. And eventually I'll have a video coming out talking about the Canadian stuff that gets released. Anyways, that of course is it for today. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And of course, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.